lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that gleams. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. The mirror's reflection, it shows who I am, but it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight, to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. Through the storms and the pain, I'm finding my way again. With purpose, with heart, I'll never fall apart. It's the journey, not just the end, a story that begins again. I'll build it, I'll create a life that resonates. Be great, be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. This is your story, it's time to ignite a life of intention, a future so bright. The world is waiting, don't let it wait. Step into your greatness, it's time, be great.
Well, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see you all. Thanks for joining me for this Thursday afternoon, our regular stream for the Idea Academy. For those of you who are newer, Thursday is the day when I do this live stream that is all about helping you. Normally, a lot of times I do a lot of content that's about entertaining you. If you are a follower on Twitch, certainly you've maybe seen some of my gaming streams. But what a lot of the newer people don't necessarily know about me is that one of the things that I do in life, one of the most important things to me, is helping people with the things in their lives that they need help with. And so every Thursday we do this. It's called the Idea Academy stream. It's named after my company, the Idea Training Academy. And the Idea Training Academy is a coaching and consulting company. And what we do is we work with individuals and we also work with companies and businesses, and we help them through the things that have them stuck, that get them stuck in life. And so if you're feeling stuck, or if you're not sure where to start, or if you're not sure how to continue, then you are in the right place. And even if you don't know that those are things that are going on right now, you still might be in the right place, because sometimes we don't know that we're stuck until we hit that point where we're burned out. Have you ever done that? Have you ever had that moment where you looked around you and you just didn't want to do it anymore? You just didn't wanna you didn't even feel like getting up out of bed in the morning sometimes, right? You just felt like you were completely at a standstill, and that's really hard. It's especially hard, if you've ever had, like, a time in your life where you made some progress, a time in your life when you got some momentum, where you were making moves towards some big things, and then you hit that state of burnout. And that can be really, really hard. And so I want to talk about that a little bit today. I want to talk about what happens when you get into that position, and I want to see if we can, if we can build some ways through that. So, I guess the best way to start the conversation is just kind of some real talk, right? And that goes something like this. Hold on. Let me catch up with the chat here. Yes, I'm definitely there right now, so I feel this came at the right time. Perfect. I'm so glad to hear that this is timely for you. It's timely for me, right? So I spend my whole life is spent trying to help other people with these moments where they feel stuck, where they feel burned out, where they feel like they don't know how to make their next step. And so for me to kind of look at myself this week and realize that I felt stuck, that I've been questioning my own progress, that's been pretty challenging. In fact, this week, to be completely transparent and honest, I've spent a lot of time this week really pondering if the work that I do is making any impact at all, if it's making any difference at all. And it's hard. It's hard because sometimes it's hard to measure the progress you are making. I wrote a post. I wrote I write a weekly kind of newsletter, and it is, if you look right up here, it's at my Substack, which is andrewburkham.substack.com. It is completely free. It does not cost you anything. If you want to support what I'm doing over there, you can throw a few extra dollars in, and I will gladly send you some bonus content for that. But the newsletter itself is completely free. And every week, what I do is I write a little bit about some of the things that I've learned along my growth journey. And what I wrote about last week, so last Friday is when this came out. It comes out every week on Friday. And what I was writing about last Friday is checking the scorecards that we look at. How do you measure progress when it feels like you're not making any? Have you ever felt have you ever been in a place where you felt like, gosh, I'm doing all of the right things. I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing the things that I've read were the right things to do. I'm doing the things that I know are the right things to do. I'm doing all the things that should add up to success, but something still feels off. Maybe you're even getting some success, but something still feels off. Absolutely. Good. So you're in the same place that I've been in my life sometimes, even this week. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what happens when progress feels like it's invisible. Like you should be making progress but you're not sure where. And then the secondary thing around that is how to make sure you're even on the right path, right? Because sometimes we get so lost in that moment that we begin to question not even whether we're making progress forward, but whether we're on the right path to begin with. If we're in the right career, if we're in the right, the right specific job. And I solicited just to kind of let you guys know again, because I know we've got a few new people who are in here. We have on the Discord server that I run, and you can throw exclamation Discord in the Twitch chat if you're not in that server already. But on the Discord server that I run, there is a special section that is especially for people who want to get some coaching, because that's what I do. I do coaching and I help people out. And so if you hit exclamation coaching in that Twitch chat, it'll tell you how to get into that channel. And this week I asked those people who are dedicated, who specifically are looking for some help making the next moves in their lives, or maybe it's in their career, maybe it's in their streaming life. I know that some of you are here because you want to start streaming or you want to get better at streaming. And so I asked them, I said, "Hey, what kind of questions do you have?" And it was so interesting that of the responses I got 3 responses back, and each of those responses was kind of around this topic. It was around how do I know I'm doing the right thing? Or how do I know that I'm making the right choices? There's a lot of self-doubt that goes along. Let's see, unless it's Amanti and just say it's a walking simulator. That's true. If when worse comes to worse, you can simply call the Egyptian horror game a walking simulator. That's a good way to make forward progress. But this question of like how do we feel progress? And I think maybe that's where we need to start today. Let's talk about that a little bit. Because one of the biggest lies that I think we believe is that progress should always feel like progress. Do you know what I mean? We feel like that success, that moment of success should feel like success. And sometimes when we're not getting the success we want, or we're not feeling the success we want, sometimes we start to move the boundary. We start to move the goalpost a little bit. Let me tell you, you can move the goalpost in one of two directions. There's one direction that I think is very unhealthy, and this actually is what I hear a lot of streamers and a lot of content creators do. And I want to warn you against this. And that is this: a lot of people will say, if you are doing what you do, if you're having fun, then it's okay. Then nothing else matters. But I want to challenge you. I think that if you've showed up to a stream about growing and about being better and about improving, and you're still here and you haven't left yet, I want to challenge you that having fun should be a byproduct. It should be what comes as a result of, getting the growth, having the success that you want to have. And I'm not talking about growth in terms of numbers, because you really have to figure out what your goal is. And this is one of the big things. I talked about this, and I've had a little bit of success. I'm not the most successful content creator in the world, but I've had a little bit of success in the couple years that I've been doing this. And when people come to me and they first ask me, well, what did you do? How did you get started? And one of the things I always tell them is, what I didn't start with was, I didn't start with the idea that I wanted to just be the same as everybody else. I didn't start with the idea that I just wanted to be another gaming streamer, right? When I started out, what really kind of got me started or got me inspired at the beginning was I looked at the live streaming space, and I saw that communities were being formed there. And I saw that there were people in those chats, in those moments, that didn't necessarily have the opportunity to connect with other people in other spaces. and that this was a place where they felt safe and where they felt like they could have a community. And so when I started out, the thing that was important to me was that there was a sense of community being built. Not for me, right? Not because I needed a space to fit in, but because I thought that maybe I could be the catalyst that would bring people together. And when I have lost my sense of progress along the way, when I have felt like, and now again, speaking specifically to the streaming end of things, when I have felt, hey, Ed is Steele, welcome in, dude. It's good to see you, man. When I have felt like I was not making progress, it was when I deviated away from that. And I started to look at the numbers and I started to look at, who was showing up and who wasn't showing up and, how many followers was I getting and things like that. And when those became my scoreboard, I started to feel that I wasn't making progress. So I had to change that a little bit. What is your scoreboard going to be? That's the first thing you have to answer for yourself. What is your scoreboard going to be? Now, if you get a chance, go back and read this post that I just posted last week. Take a look through that and really ponder, what is it you want to keep track of in your life? Do you want to keep track of just how many people show up? Or do you want to keep track of the kinds of relationships you're building? I am going to sneeze. Excuse me. Bless me. Let's see. It says, I know I want to build a community, but I would also like financial freedom. Money is definitely not the most important thing, but it's part of the goal as far as streaming and content creation. That's so good, right? It's good to know that it's maybe not the most important thing, but it's also important to know that it is an important thing because you have to optimize for what you want to optimize for. And so if you want that to be a part of what brings in your income, then you've got to treat it in a very different way than the person who's just going to go live, right? Who's just going to go live, throw on whatever game they feel like playing that day and just hope that some people show up. You got to treat that differently. You got to treat it like a business from day one. And yeah, it's a business that's about bringing people together. And it's a business that's about creating relationships and about creating safe spaces for people and about creating an environment that's fun and enjoyable and allows people to blow off steam. But you got to treat it like a business. And so you got to know what your scorecard's going to be. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what value am I going to provide to people? So this is for your life in general, okay? And we're going to get way into this towards the end because one of the questions that I got this week was directly about this. It was about, where do I bring the most value? So we're going to talk about value a lot today. But if you're headed into streaming and you want to succeed, the number one question you have to ask for yourself is, what value do I provide to other people? Because if you want people to pay you for what you bring, you got to bring value to those people. There's got to be something that they want. Thank you so much for the bless you. I appreciate that. So think about that. Now, I want you to think to yourself also right now, what I mentioned some of my wrong scoreboards that I've used in my life. So I've used followers, I've used subscribers, I've used those things as the wrong scoreboard. I've even used in my outside business, I've used the number of contracts that I've signed, or maybe the number of replies that I get to my outreach. I've used those kinds of things. But what wrong scoreboards have you used before? Maybe it's been like a title. Like some people use a promotion at work as a scoreboard, or maybe it's approval. That's a big one, right? Is that we look for other people's approval. I know I've been caught in that trap myself my whole life, right? I grew up and the oldest of three kids. I grew up and I have my whole life I have always a little bit. Now, I'm getting past this in my later years, but a lot of my life I spent a lot of time chasing people's approval. And when I didn't get it, or when I found out after the fact that somebody was leading me on, or that they were being one way to my face and then another way behind my back, those things were devastating to me because I had made my scoreboard the approval of other people. And it wasn't until I changed that scoreboard from looking for approval to looking for impact that I actually started to feel like I was making some progress. So there there are one of the responses that I got to the question this last week. I'm going to paraphrase it, just to keep everything anonymous. But one of the responses that I got back this last week was basically like, how do I find greatness in the path that I've chosen? Right. So maybe I've taken a job that's a different kind of job, and I feel like, I'm just not sure. Like, I'm not sure that this is the place where I'm going to be great. And the second question, the question that was asked was, what does greatness look like in this job? And is the effort worth it for that result? So these are two very important things, right? The first thing is, you have got to define what greatness looks like. That goes back to your scorecard. And be great, that's my whole phrase, that's my whole catchphrase, is be great. Because I believe that everyone has has access to moments of greatness in their life. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you were born. I don't care what color your skin is, how you identify. I don't care any of those things. I know that there are obstacles that are in your way, but I want you to know that you have access to greatness. But this friend of mine was asking, what does greatness look like? And what greatness looks like is all dependent upon what you want to bring to the situation that you're in. Better than what you want to bring, what you can bring. So, greatness for you is being your best at whatever you choose to be your best at. Now, for some people, that is working at a job. For some people, that's relationships, right? Being the best at relationships. When I was going through my kind of crisis this last week, where I'm like, gosh, I cannot figure out what the problem is that I'm solving for people. Or, I asked one of my coaches, I said, what is it? Is it that my message is bad, that my message is irrelevant, or is it that I'm bad at presenting it, that I'm bad at bringing that message to the people? And he very wisely said to me, well, you're not considering a third thing, which is that you may just have the wrong audience. And so the question is, for you, right, when you're asking about where you're going to find your greatness, the question is, what impact do you want to make? What impact can you make? And around that question of whether it's worth it or not, well, that is an ongoing, constant weighing situation, right? You will hear me say this phrase time and time and time and time again. And that question is this. You must ask yourself this question every single day. And that's this. What's most important right now? What is the most important thing right now? What you cannot do as a streamer, as a worker, as a person in relationship, what you cannot do is you cannot let yourself fall into a place where everything is the most important thing. Because when everything is the most important thing, then nothing is the most important thing. You've got to learn to focus. So if you want to find out what greatness looks like for you, you have to first decide what the most important thing is to you. Because that right there, that's your mission. And you've got to drive for that mission. So everything you do should be centered around that mission. There are some things in life that are going to be supplemental, or what I call operational. There's some things that you've got to do to keep the lights on, right? Maybe for you, that's the job. You got to go to the job to pay the bills, to keep the lights on. But listen, if that's not the most important thing to you, if you look at the job and you say, no, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is my relationships or my freedom. See, so Flo, when I hear you talk about building that community and going after that, what I'm here with the word that I'm actually latching onto with you is the word freedom. Because what you want above all else is you want freedom. And so for you, what you've got to say is, everything that I do, how can everything that I do contribute to my sense of freedom? And now you've couched that as financial freedom, but I would challenge you. Is it just financial freedom, or is it that your financial freedom would free you up to do the things that you love, that you want to do? or maybe to provide the things that you need for your family, right? So you got to get granular. You got to get real specific on this. What is it that you want, right? I guess both of those points I need to sit down and think about how I can stand out and still by myself because there are a million other streamers out there. That's exactly it, right? So you've got to sit down, you got to say what is it that's most important to me? And then also what's unique about me? Like what value do I bring? So me, right? You look at me and what value do I bring? Well, I bring about 25 years of doing this, of sitting down with people and helping them find their way forward. And that's something that not, quite frankly, not a lot of other streamers bring, right? If you're in the Twitch space right now, certainly you're probably not seeing a lot of other people who bring this. And that's something that I've focused on from day one is how can I help other people achieve their goals? That's probably not it for you, right? Everybody's got their own path, they've got their own experience, they've got their own value that they bring. But what you have to do is you have to zoom in on what that is. And that is where you find your moments of greatness. When you start to distill the value that you can create, that's when you find your moment of greatness. Because what will happen is when you start to believe that you're a person who can achieve that thing, more important than achieve it, right? It's not about the goal, it's about who you're becoming. So you're asking yourself, what's most important? And then who am I becoming? That thing that's most important, who is it driving me to become? Because that identity that you have, that's gonna sort everything out down the way. You can always point back towards that. That can always be a compass. Is this task making me into the type of person that I want to be, that I need to be, that was the person that I was created to be, that I was designed to be, that is the best version of myself? So for me, the best version of myself, the person that I was created to be, that I was designed to be, was a person who spends his full attention, who devotes his full attention to helping other people find the way forward. So everything I do has got to point me in that direction. If I stream, then I have to either make money streaming so that I can facilitate my attention to that, right? Because everything costs money, right? All of this costs money. So I've got to make some money. That's real life, right? I've got to do it. Or it's got to facilitate relationships, or sometimes it's just got to facilitate practice, right? So what's the most important thing, and who are you becoming as a result of that? Right? And then what scoreboard are you going to track? So for me, right, I was going back to the Substack post over here. I will give you a little bit of a spoiler. What I determined that I need to track is I need to track the stories of people's lives being changed. So I'll give you an example. And what I did is I just made a simple Google document and I started it last week. And every time somebody sends me a message, either on Substack, which is kind of my primary, I guess, social media channel, but also on TikTok and on Instagram, I'm in those places as well. And when somebody sends me a message and says, "Hey, what you said meant something to me," or it changed the way that I looked at things, or that I see things differently now because of what you said, that's my scoreboard. That's how I get locked into whether or not I'm making progress, right? I'm really surprised I made it to one of these streams. I'm glad you made it to one of my streams. Welcome in, Sunshine. It's good to see you here. It's very good to see you here. We have just been talking about what to do when progress doesn't feel like progress. When you're doing all the right things, but it feels like you're just not making any headway. And so just to recap very quickly, what we talked about is the first thing you got to do is you got to figure out what your scoreboard is, what you really care about. And how you figure that out, what your scoreboard is you look at what's the most important thing to you right now. And then the type of person that you have to become to get to that most important thing. And then every activity that you have has got to line up with that most important thing and the person that you're becoming as a result of that. Because if it doesn't, it's actually going to drag you back. It's going to take you the opposite direction. And you can't afford that. Yet you don't have time to waste on things that aren't moving you towards what you want to become. Not if you really want to grow. Not if you really want to be great. Not if you really want to find that moment of greatness. And so, like my friend, said in this message, um, sometimes we have to reevaluate the path that we've taken. Sometimes we have to reevaluate those choices. And that goes along with the second message that I got was, am I making the right choices? And this person says, I've been so wrapped up in work and personal stuff that I just feel lost, kind of lost in the sauce, right? And this is the other thing. And I've talked for a couple of weeks now about being overcommitted and about overthinking and just being about overwhelmed. You can't make progress forward as long as you're overwhelmed. So if you're overwhelmed, if you are overloaded, you cannot make progress forward. You've got to find a way out of that overload. And what happens is a lot of times when we get overloaded, when we get too much stuff on our plate, just in general, when we get too much stuff on our plate, then we also not only start to become overloaded, but we start to overthink things. And when we start to overthink things, what happens is we get into this pattern of asking, oh, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that could possibly happen? And that spirals us downhill into a place where we're afraid. And this is one of the best things that you can do. I want to encourage you to do this. Admit what you're afraid of. What is it that you're afraid of? Because when you start to admit what you're afraid of, you're one step closer to finding what's really important to you. So for me, right, I'll go back to myself. This last week, I've kind of looked at all of my stuff and I've gone, lone meatball in the spaghetti sauce syndrome, I think is the technical term. I would agree with that 100%. I think that is probably true. Um, but for me, this last week, it was when I kept saying to myself, I can't see that you're making an impact. Here I am, however much longer, however much later, and I'm just not seeing these things that I thought would be the result. Maybe I'm just not, maybe I just have a bad message, right? And so the way that I had to break myself out of that was I had to figure out what I was afraid of, what I was really afraid of. And I think what I was afraid of, honestly, what I was afraid of was that my work, it was meaningless, that it wasn't impactful to people. And that's where I came up along that question of, do I have the wrong message, or am I bad at delivering it? Am I just not a good communicator? And I think those are the things that I was afraid of. And so when I talked to my coach about this, he said, listen, here's the thing. If you have a message that's changed your life, it's the right message. For somebody out there, if a message has changed or is changing your life, it's not the wrong message. And he's like, your communication skills, your method, you can get better at that. So let me encourage you right now. If you feel like your barrier right now is that I got this question also. I got this on the Slido, which is posted up at the top. That's where if you want to ask something anonymously, you can drop it into that. But one of the anonymous questions that I got this week was, sorry, it's loading very slowly. The question that I got this week was, what's the best way to set up a Twitch stream? Because I don't know what to do before I go live, right? And so I could answer that question very, very simply if you wanted. I could answer it with, oops, sorry, apologize. Yeah, so I could answer that with any number of things. I could answer it with, okay, well, here are all the technical things that you need to do in order to get set up to stream. You need to make sure you have your Twitch account set up this way. You need to have your OBS set up this way. You need, to set up your camera this way. You need to set up your microphone this way. I can answer it with all of those technical things, but I don't think that's the most important thing to identify before you go live. Like the most important thing to identify before you go live is why you want to do it. See, because if you don't have a strong why, if you don't have a strong purpose, then you're going to find that you get all of those technical things sorted out, and then you go live, and then guess what? You're one of a million different people who are live at that exact same time. Because we think that just doing the thing is what brings the value, but that's not it at all. It's not doing the thing that brings the value. It's why we do the thing that brings the value. So that's where I had to keep going back to this week for me, right? And for those of you who are looking at your options, at your choices, and you're saying, I don't know if I'm making right choices. I'm caught up in my job. I'm caught up in personal things. I don't even know if there is a moment of greatness for me here. And if it is, I don't know if it's worth the sacrifice. That's where you got to get specific with yourself. You got to get specific about why am I doing what I'm doing? Not just what, but why. And does that why align with the person that you want to be? And if it does, then that's great. Then let's solve the other problems. Maybe the problem is motivation. It's usually not motivation, but maybe it is motivation. Or maybe it's just a planning thing. For me, a lot of times it's time management. For me, it's trying to figure out how to allocate my time appropriately. So we can solve those problems. That's not an issue, but we can't solve those problems until you've determined why you're doing what you do, why you want to do it, and why you are doing it. I'm going to segue this into another great question that I got this week. And let me see if I can read it here for you. Give me a second here. Let me pull it up. Let me pull this up for you. So the question that I got this week was, how do you know where you can bring the most value? So this is from someone who already knows, well, in fact, this person says, I'm pretty confident in my ability to bring value. And again, stage one is knowing what value you bring and dedicating yourself to bringing that value. So that's the first thing. If you don't know what value you bring, then you have to figure that out. Okay? And I'm not saying spend the next 3 weeks figuring out what value you're going to bring and hold back on doing anything. No, you can do it in the process. That's totally fine. If you want to start going live today, if you want to start posting to your socials today, if you want to take that job today and figure out what your value is, what value you bring as you go along, that's fine. You're going to be getting practice. You're going to be getting reps. You're going to be learning things along the way that are going to be valuable to you. But once you've figured out that value, eventually this question is going to come up. Where can I bring the most value? This person says, I'm pretty confident in my ability to bring value, but I feel like I could do something more meaningful. I just don't know what that looks like or if I'll always feel that way no matter which route I take. And that is so good, so pertinent, so very, very important. So let's set this up. First of all, the ability to bring value is very different from feeling like you're doing something meaningful. That would be the first thing that I would want to kind of set apart for this person. Is bringing value means that I'm doing something that's important, that's helpful, that's beneficial. So I can bring value in any job. If I go into a job, and I come to an employer, I know I can bring value. What kind of value can I bring? Well, I'm really good at coaching people. I'm really good at strategic planning. I am really good at developing people and helping them become better at what they do. That's the value that I can bring, but that's different from doing something meaningful, right? Because you could be super valuable in any given role or project, but if it's not aligned with, I'll go back to what's most important right now. If those things aren't in alignment, then it's still going to feel like you're not doing anything. So if you're questioning if you're in the right place right now, excuse me, the real question for you is about alignment. It's not about capability, right? It's about that question. Is what I'm doing, is the path that I've chosen, is it in line with what's most important to me? So I want to offer you three. I wrote this down today before I came on, just real quick, because this question came in at the last minute, but it dovetailed so nicely into the other two that I'd gotten. But I did write down 3 questions to help you find where you bring the most value. And so the first question would be, um, where does my combination of my talents, my strengths, and my passions solve a real problem? So this is what it comes down to. I think I mentioned this earlier, right? I was talking to a friend this week, and I was like, I don't know the problem that I solve, or maybe I'm not right about the problem that I solve. So, what is the problem that you're solving for people? So think about it this, there's this kind of intersection, this Venn diagram, you know what those are. I wish I had one to put on the screen, but I don't. But think about these three things. What are you naturally good at? What are you good at? And then what brings you joy or what brings you energy? What energizes you? And then what do other people really need? And if you can find the intersection between those things, what I'm good at, what energizes me, and what other people genuinely need and value, that's where you're going to make impact. And that was something actually my coach Erwin McManus this week, he said the exact same thing. He couched it a little bit differently, probably better, in fact, now that I'm thinking about it. But he talked about, what can I do well? Um, what can I do that does the most good for others, right? And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to stop to make a brief commercial. If all of your activities are focused inward, if everything is about yourself, then what you're going to find is it's going to be much, much harder to find success. Now, I'm not saying you won't find some success by being more self-focused, but if you want to fast track to success, focus on what you can do to help other people out. So, what am I good at? What does the most good? And then the third one he said was what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? And he was talking about if you have a lot of different options on the table, those are the three things you ask to find out which one to pursue. I'm talking to you in general. If you want to find an opportunity that is going to help you create the most value, it needs to intersect those three things. What am I good at? What brings me energy or joy? And what do other people need? Because if any one of those is off, right? If you're trying to do something you're not good at, then you're not going to be good at it, right? You're not going to bring value there. You can learn skills, certainly, but you should start from a place where you know that you've got something that you're good at. And then what energizes me? Like what brings me energy? Because if you're good at it, but you're drained by it, it's not going to be sustainable. If it's in one of your areas of frustration, it's just going to drag you down. So you may be like super good at this thing, but if it's dragging you down, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to find yourself in burnout. So that's the first question is where my combination of those three things, what I'm good at, what energizes me, and what people need. That's the first thing that I would ask. And then the second one is what do people come to me for? So this is just in your regular life. When people come to you, what is it for? Where do people naturally show up for help when they're looking for you? Not, I mean, maybe professionally, maybe that's it, but just like in everyday life. Because a lot of times your area of greatest impact is something that you're already doing. So if people come to you and they need advice on how to build better relationships, well, then potentially that's going to be your area of greatest impact, right? Or if people come to you because they need help building like very clear frameworks and strategies, maybe that's going to be your area where you're going to be best, right? But what are people naturally coming to you for? That's the second question. So where's that intersection of your talents, strengths, and passions? First. Second, where are people already seeking me out? And then the third is this one sucks. I'll be upfront with this. This one's hard, but it's this. What problem am I willing to struggle for? Because the best work that you're going to do is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. I'm not here to lie to you. I'm not here to pretend that it's going to be easy. This is why I have a problem with streamers when they're like, yeah, if you're just having fun, you're doing a good job. If you're just having fun. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. You can have fun on your own. You can have fun, drinking yourself to death or, doing any number of things that are destructive. Those things can be fun, but that's not where you're going to do your best work. Your best work is in the place where it's going to be hard for you. And I'm going to be honest, it's not always going to be fun. So, now's your time to turn me off. If you think that every day of the most important thing of your life is going to be fun, you turn me off now. It's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna get you there. But I'll tell you what, the rewards are gonna be so much better than a little bit of fun, right? So the question is that you have to ask yourself is, what problem am I willing to struggle for? What am I willing to push through those hard times for? I would couch this as a relationship, right? As your relationship. So if you're married or if you're in a long-term relationship, you know very, very well that you don't wake up feeling every day the same way that you felt the first day that you met that person or that you fell in love with that person, right? There are days, however many years up the road, where it's hard and where loving that person, a lot of people say, oh, love's not a feeling, it's a choice. I don't think it's a choice. I think it's a discipline. And I want to get really specific about that word discipline. When I'm talking about discipline, I'm talking about things that you work at that you do every single day. Things that will drive your success, that you're willing to do every single day, even though it's hard. I go to the gym every single day, and every single day that I do it, I hate it. But you know what? I feel better. I look a little better. I've lost some weight. And I can tell the difference. I can feel the difference. I can see the difference over time. But if that was what I was focused on, if I was focused on that difference that I was seeing, that wouldn't be enough to keep me in it. Instead, I have to fall in love with being dedicated to the process. So I have to love the getting up at 5:30 and going to the gym. Even though I actually hate it some days, I have to love that I'm doing it. So that's it for you is you got to find the problem that you're willing to love hating sometimes. What is worth that to you? And if you've been in a long-term relationship, you've already experienced that. And that's one of the things that I keep telling people is how do you map back something that you've already done? Hey, you've already been successful in this area. How do you map it back onto this? How do you learn the lessons from that moment where you were successful and you bring that over into this particular pursuit? All of that's a part of figuring out what the problem is. Because if you can identify the type of impact that you're willing to fight for, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's painful, even when you hate doing it sometimes, you're getting a little bit closer. So those are my three questions. I'm gonna go back over those real fast. Just first one is, where is the combination? Where is the intersection of my talents, strengths, and passion to solve a problem? Okay. That requires you to know, what are you good at? What brings you joy and energy? And what do people need that you can provide, right? Start there. Then second, what do people already come to me for? Or what value do I already provide to people? This is the one where I find actually people, they get lost in this. They don't think about the fact. Do you think about the fact that you're creating impact for people every day, all day? I think a lot of people don't. So think about that. What kind of things do people come to me for? And then third, what am I willing to struggle for? What am I willing to fight for? What am I willing to be worn out for and not want to do and do it anyway? Right? Let's see here. Along with this is there is a fear that comes up. And the fear is, and I know I've been there, and I know that there are some people who are there right now, but um the fear is, what if I always feel this way? What if I always feel this way? Because some of you out there are high performers. And by high performers, what I mean is that you're wired to always look for the next level of impact. You're always looking for the next level. You're always looking to elevate, to provide a little bit more value to people. And that's not a flaw. It's actually a good thing to have. But Brandon Burchard, who is another guy that I love to listen to. Brandon Burchard talks about this concept of striving satisfied. And striving satisfied means, yeah, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go at it every day. I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to stay focused and I'm going to try and be better. I'm going to do better today. I'm going to be 1% better every single day, but also to be able to look at the things that you have achieved and look at the things that you've got and go, hey, that's all right. Like, I'm satisfied. I'm happy. I want more, but I'm happy. I want more impact. I want to create more help to people. I want to do better things. I want to be greater. But boy, I'm happy with where I'm at. Part of that is gratitude, right? You can get up every day and you should get up every day and you should write down every single day. You should write down 3 things you're grateful for. Every single day, you should do that. If you do that, if you'll do 2 simple things, quick life hack for you. Every morning, if you write down 3 things that you're grateful for, and then every night, if you write down 3 wins from that day, no matter how small, if you do that every single day, you will change your performance in every aspect of your life. And H. What's up, kitty cat? How are you doing? Every single day, if you wake up and you write down 3 things that you're grateful for, and then at night, if you write down 3 wins, and I'm talking write them down. And I know some people, you're not writers, right? You don't want to write things down. Listen, just list them. What are you grateful for? I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm grateful that the sun is shining because it's been cold lately. I'm grateful that all of my tech went right on the stream today, right? What are you grateful for? 3 things. And then at the end of the day, 3 wins. If you can do that every single day, you will change your performance to a whole new level on every single field. But the key is, if you're a high performer and you're somebody who has a hard time being satisfied, the key is not letting that feel of there's more to keep you from making the most of where you are now. Because your growth and your greater work is going to come from deepening your current work before you jump into something new. So whatever you're doing right now, it deserves the best that you can give it. Because when that new opportunity presents itself, or when you create that new opportunity, if you're not already in a state of performing at the highest level that you can, you're not going to be prepared to take advantage of that moment. So don't let it keep you making the most of where you are right now. Strive satisfied, be grateful for the things that you have, but keep wanting more. So here's an experiment that I want you to try this week. I just want you to try this out this week. This week, keep track and try to notice moments where you feel most alive. Like when your energy is high, when you're firing on all cylinders, when you're doing great stuff and you know it. Keep track of that. Let that be a scoreboard for a week so you can go, okay, great. These are the moments. When am I feeling most engaged? Well, you know what? I was in my stream on Thursday and people were asking questions and I was giving answers and I felt like I was creating real value. That was a moment when I felt most alive. So when do you feel most alive? When do you feel most helpful? When are you seeing immediate impact? So on Tuesday, I was in a call with a colleague of mine, and I talked about this whole concept of mapping past successes onto your current task. And I was able to help her walk through that process. Hey, look, you did this thing in the past. You walked through this whole journey with your fitness, and you were able to do that. And you already told me all the steps that you did it. Why can't you map that onto the task that you're on right now? So when I was able to help her with that, she's like, yeah, that's a great perspective. And in that moment, I felt helpful. So when do you feel most alive? When do you feel most helpful? And then here's the third one. This is the kicker right here. When do you feel most drained, right? So when are you doing something that you're really good at but it just is taking it out of you. Even though you may be great at it, it's taking it out of you. Because what you're going to start to see is when you find those three things and you start to connect those dots, you're going to see patterns emerge. And the insights that you get from those patterns, those are what are going to help you focus your energy to where you can bring the most value in a way that actually fulfills you. Because again, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think you should stream for fun. Outright, if that is your motivation, I don't think you should do it. Because I think at some point it's going to be hard to continue having fun. And you're going to quit, right? I think you should have a reason to do what you do. I think you should have a reason to do everything that you do, right? But it's all about doing those things that are important while you're being fulfilled, not just having fun, being fulfilled. So what really fulfills you? You'll find that when you find out when you're most alive and when you're most helpful. What does not fulfill you, you will find when you're most drained. So at the end of the day, it's not just about finding the right opportunity or even creating the right opportunity, because maybe if you're starting a business, if you're starting a streaming business, if you're starting some other kind of business, you may not be waiting for the opportunity. You may be creating the right opportunity. But what it's about being intentional. So I use that word a lot, intentional. It's about being intentional. And when I say the word intentional, what I mean is not by accident. It is about being on purpose, about the kind of contribution that you want to make wherever you are, making the right kind of contribution. And you may always feel like there's another level someplace. You may always feel like there's another ceiling that you need to break through, and that is okay. But the goal that I want for you is for you to live in alignment, not just to chase a finish line that keeps moving, because it's going to keep moving. If you're a high performer, you're never going to get there. That's the bad news for you. The good news is you're going to get better and better and better every day. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. If you're watching the replay, throw that down in the comments. If you're watching live, feel free to shoot a DM out at me. I would absolutely love to talk more about those things. But that's kind of how I feel like you can start to figure out where am I going to bring the most value. So, let's see. Let's just recap a little bit. So today we talked about progress and what to do when it feels like it's invisible. And the key is to be aware, number one, that that's going to happen. You're always going to get a dip. Sometimes progress will not feel like progress, and it's not the feeling that keeps you going. It is knowing what's most important to you, who you're becoming because of that, and what value you bring. And when it comes to decisions and making sure you're making the right decisions, and when you're making the right choices, you're bringing the most value. It's all about knowing where your uniqueness matches up with a real problem, about knowing where people seek you out already, and about knowing and being committed to what you're willing to struggle for. So that is about all I have for you this week. I'll tell you that coming out of this, I'm feeling better. Ironically, I was at a low point kind of in the middle of the week where I was like, man, I just don't know if I'm making an impact. And then as I started to think about this today, what happened? But I got an email. And in that email, I was connected to somebody who may actually have a great need for the services that I provide. And so that's the next step forward. But I'm not ready to take advantage of that unless I've been doing all the right things all along. And those right things are knowing what's most important, knowing who I'm becoming, and then finding the problem that I can solve for people and doing what I do that fulfills me the most, that I'm best at, and that people need me for. So I hope that's helpful to you. I feel the very, very deep pain of being stuck on a sandbar, right? Of being stuck. And if there's one thing in the world that I want to relieve people from, it is exactly that. It's the pain of being stuck. Because what I want for you more than anything else is for you to know that you're doing good. One of the questions that I always ask whenever I'm working with employee engagement in businesses, one of the questions that I always tell employers that their employees have to be able to answer, there are four questions that employees have to be able to answer in order to be really engaged in their work and satisfied. We used to talk a lot about employee satisfaction. We don't talk about employee satisfaction anymore because again, it's not about having fun. It's about really feeling like you're engaged, like you're making a difference. And so the four questions that I always ask, and you should ask yourself this on anything that you do, but the four questions that you should always ask yourself are number one, what is my job or what am I supposed to do? And because if you don't know what you're supposed to do, then there's no way you can be engaged. There's no way you can connect to it. So number one, what am I supposed to do? What's my job? Um, the number two thing is why does it matter? And that's the question of alignment. How does it align with my purpose? The number three thing is how do I know if I'm doing a good job? So in any aspect of your life, you have to know how you're doing a good job. And then number four is, am I doing a good job? And for you personally, that's all about finding the right scoreboard. So I hope that for you guys. Listen, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. I know, especially for those of you who are streamers who are coming in for the first time, this is a very different thing. That I would thank you so much, How to Steal. You take care, my friend. I know that this is a very different thing. It's a little bit weird, so I appreciate it if you've stuck through this. This is what Thursday looks like. But I always go out by reminding you, first of all, check out my Substack. It's free, and I think it will help you. The second thing is just know that I know that there is a moment of greatness that's waiting for you. But that moment is not going to come for you. Okay, it's going to require action. It's going to require thought. It's going to require dedication. It's going to require discipline. It's going to require execution. There's a moment of greatness that is waiting for you, but it's not going to come for you. It's up to you to pursue your moment. And I know you can do it. I believe in you. Reach out to me if I can help. Now go be great. I'll see you next time.
I've been caught in the whispers, lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that gleams. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. The mirror's reflection, it shows who I am. But it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight, to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. it resonate.